Thought I'd take time real quick to talk to you guys about spray guns and why I use a silver gun and I don't use a contractor gun and I don't use a G10. I don't use a Titan gun, and I'm going to kind of go over each one of those guns that I've had and used before and why I don't use them and I use a silver gun. Okay, there's a lot of reasons and they all add up to spending the 200 and whatever dollars it takes to buy this gun. Now, I don't think I paid that much for them back then, but then again, I've had this gun I think for about 20 years or so, and I've got about 6 or 7 of them. And why do I use it? Okay, let's talk about the contractor gun. Most commonly used gun, Graco contractor, is what most people use, and it has a spray line that goes up into here. It goes in through your filter, and then it has a 2-finger, which is important to have 2-finger. We're going to go with that in a second. And then it has a fluid section here, and it goes through, and you have your regular tip. It does the same thing that this gun does. Without paint, it's not very much difference in weight. But here's why they make a silver gun. The reason they make a silver gun is because it's better, all right? Not just because people like to spend ridiculous amounts of money on stuff. I'll tell you what, this is the reason why I don't have it. When it is primed with paint, it is heavier because it's got paint in the handle, okay? It's heavier than this gun is. Now, you might say, oh, well, who cares? I'm strong. I'm a big, strong painter. I can handle the weight, whatever. Okay, now let's look ahead about 20 years from now. You've been swinging that gun all that time. Guess what? Now you've got more problems. You got shoulder issues like I do. I have shoulder issues because I used a pole doing big warehouses so much. And frozen shoulder sucks. I'm going to tell you that right now. It makes it so it makes it a lot harder to do your work when you get older. So I'm telling you, young guys, this stuff so you can learn the right way, so you don't have to do all the things that I've had to do over the years and relearn everything. But I actually used this gun. It wasn't this that caused the shoulder issues. It was actually the pole that was on the end of it, because the type of work I was doing required a pole. I don't use poles unless it's needed, and it was needed. So why do I use a silver gun again? Why not a contractor gun? Because it's, first of all, it's lighter. Okay, it's lighter when it's primed with paint. The second thing is, I do not need the filter inside here because I have a cone filter right here. If you take the tip off, you look here, this is my filter. Yeah, it's small. If your paint's strained, about every 2 hours you're gonna have to take this off. If you take it off about every 2 hours, or it depends on how many gallons you go through, really. I think it's about every 5 gallons. Got to take this out, clean it, put it back in. It takes about 30 seconds to do. You just have your little bucket of water with you and clean it out real quick. And then you won't be getting plug ups with your flat tip. If you do happen to get a plug up with your flat tip, the first thing you do is try and beat it on something, hit it on the ground like that, and then spray a little bit, and usually that takes care of it. Some guy asked about that in one of the videos. So guys go, well, I don't want plug ups, so I have a reverse tip. A reverse tip gets you about 20% more overspray, more fallout. You're losing material loss, and today with the cost of material, it pays to have a flat tip. And you have to cover more. If you have to cover more, that's more labor cost. Everything. Fallout is your biggest enemy. Fallout is overspray, okay? That's your biggest enemy when you're a painter. Causes dust, even dust. You don't want dust. You know, little dust as possible is better when you're painting, even if it doesn't stick. All right, Titan. The Titan gun, again, the same type of thing. It has a filter in the housing. When it's primed with paint, it is heavier. I've had failure issues. The aluminum is not as good quality as the Graco. So if I were to rate guns, I would say silver number 1, contractor number 2, Graco contractor, and then number 3 would be your Titan 2-finger gun. I don't know the part numbers for them because I don't buy them. I buy one gun. It's a silver gun, or I don't buy it for myself. So silver plus. The difference between silver and silver plus, from what I understand, is your housing that comes with it is a hand tight with a silver plus. Silver gun is not hand tight. So, and I don't use that housing, so it doesn't matter to me. So anyway, that's a couple things about the gun that I've had. I've had problems with the Titan, and so they are less money. So now the G10, the old 4-finger gun. Why do you want a 2-finger gun and not a 4-finger gun? And the number one thing is control. So you have a round on a 4-finger gun, you have a round handle, right? And so this has a square, like squared off handle, so you can actually hold this gun and be in control of this gun. The other 4-finger gun, you have no fingers, you just have a round base, and you lose your control when you trigger. So when you pull the trigger, you can bounce. You can have a little bit of wave in there. That little bit of wave causes, again, fallout, overspray. Fallout can be non-sticking. It can be dust. That's fine, but that's money going out there, and dust, is not. People don't like dust. I don't like dust. Try and keep everything as clean as possible. The cleaner, the better. Then you have less problems with your work. So the other thing that's nice about the silver gun is it's because the fluid goes through here and goes up through here, it's really well balanced. So again, you might say, well, that's not a real big deal. It isn't a real big deal if you're painting for one job 1 year, but when you're doing it for 20 years, 30 years, it is a big deal. It all adds up to less fatigue, less wear and tear on your body, and less problems in the future. Another reason is that I like this gun better is it has a better trigger leverage. So pulling on the trigger in this gun is a little bit easier. So now you might say, well, who cares? It's a little bit easier. So what? I'm a strong man. I can do that with the contractor gun. I'm going to be strong forever. Guess what? Tendinitis right here is what you end up with over the years if you are pulling a harder trigger. That's another thing, is guys overset their pressure. You set your pressure too high, your trigger's very hard to pull. And just pulling that trigger every day, off and on and off and on, off and on, all of a sudden you're going to find yourself 20 years with some tendinitis in your arm. Some guys can't even spray anymore because they've got that. They have to just open up the spray gun all the time and just make it work. Okay? So I'm just trying to give you guys a heads up. Especially guys who are younger, who are trying to learn this trade. You want to make some money, and that's cool. Everybody wants to make some money, but that's not the most important thing. When you get older, you're going to be wishing you did things different if you don't do them now. So, boy, if I could tell you the things that I do different when I was younger. Number one, wearing a mask a lot more. Number two, there's just a million things you know, protecting your body, you know, using sunscreen, you know, there's a million things you gotta do. You know, I would have done different, but you know, hey, you can't go back and change the past. So anyway, that's a little bit about spray guns. That's the reason I use the silver gun. Yeah, it's expensive. I think I looked up on eBay, or on Amazon. I think they're 229 bucks. But again, a good investment if you're looking at your future. And if you're a full-time painter, silver gun's the way to go. Talk to you next video.